I would say, points that you have to go through. And the first thing, obviously, is that to recognize that your experience is your differentiator. Not everyone share the same experience, and your voice can move someone forward, from point A to point B, because you already been through some pain and you solved it. And probably when you share conversation and you help people and guide them, that is your identity. And that is what you bring to the table. You don't have to have 50K followers. You don't have to be a Forbes 30 under 30, or even have the perfect company and a massive brand. All you have to have is a story, a lesson, a transformation to share with your audience, and a message that helps people. And that's what helps you to get trust. You have to go from that old belief of that you need fame or big followers in order to be invited. And you have to take action, not just staying on that passive side where you're waiting for invitation, because things are not just coming to anyone. You have to act. And the things that you have to say, you have to have a certain clarity about what you deliver. What is your proof of value? Because a great speaker is the one who helps people, because podcasting is one-to-many form of art. So you have to do something in a certain way that will help people, and all across society, not just me running marketing for startups. That is something that could be helpful for anyone.
If you haven't been on a podcast yet as a guest, why not? This is the question that racks my brain every time I speak to someone who's looking into marketing themselves effectively and efficiently. And that's why we have Gal here today. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself, why this topic matters to him, and why it absolutely matters to you. Gal, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is lovely to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why podcasting actually matters, not just to you, but to anybody who wants to actually make a name for themselves.
First of all, I am a marketing lecturer at Google and Reichman University, and I've been in the digital marketing field since I was 14. So I've seen it all. I've seen all the trends. I've done paid campaigns even before we had a like button. Just going back and seeing all the difficulties of creating content and trying to do branding and marketing. And I've just discovered that podcasting is the right tool for that. And besides that, that is just one thing that I do. I am a solopreneur. So I also created the network of Podstar and the community, and also Bold PMM, where I provide product marketing for B2B SaaS companies. Some are big, some are small, but always working with founders led me to that point where they always had the difficulty creating content. They don't delegate enough time for that, or enough effort. And the paid ads and the acquisition costs, right now it costs way more than $800 just to get a demo done on LinkedIn. So, getting into the ears of your direct audience and your direct persona, that is something that is priceless. And I think that is something that podcasting can do. So this is why I created Podstar, and that's what I'm doing now.
I love that so much. And it makes such a big difference. You mentioned a lot of different things when you discussed just the idea of podcasting. And I think that's really pertinent. People often think of podcasting as just hopping on a show and having a conversation, but they forget all of the befores and the afters of that one recording. And we're living that right now. What happened before? We formed a rapport. We had a conversation. We expanded our network. We looked into different opportunities to support one another. And now we're audience sharing. You get to come in front of my people. I get to come in front of your people. We're actually expanding our reach exponentially. What happens next? Goodness gracious. Hello, clients. Hello, authority. Hello, trust building. This is huge. But we're just showing up on a show, though. Not so much. So let's talk about not just those wins that you get from actually putting yourself out there, but also how to do so in a way that feels aligned, because a lot of people haven't put themselves out there because they feel like, what do I have to say? How do I actually stand out? What's the point?
That is super right. And, just before you start pitching yourselves to shows and, search for the right show for you to be on, or even writing on the bullet list of what should you talk about, there is something that is crucial and most people don't do it. And it's how to reframe themselves, because you have to go through the transformation from unknown to industry leading voice. And in order to do it, there are a few, I would say, points that you have to go through. And the first thing, obviously, is that to recognize that your experience is your differentiator. Not everyone shares the same experience, and your voice can move someone forward from point A to point B because you already been through some pain and you solved it. And probably when you share conversation and you help people and guide them, that is your identity. And that is what you bring to the table. You don't have to have 50K followers. You don't have to be a Forbes 30 under 30, or even have the perfect company and a massive brand. All you have to have is a story, a lesson, a transformation to share with your audience, and a message that helps people. And that's what helps you to get trust.
Yeah, we all have that. I mean, whether you know it or not, whether it's at the top of your mind or not, you've got that. And having these conversations can bring more of that to light, which is absolutely profound. It's so actually I want to add to our pros of coming on to podcasts, self-discovery. Hello, that's a huge underrated pro to doing this sort of thing. So coming to this place, repositioning yourself, your personal brand in a way that's going to create a transformation. That's the first thing that we can do. What is something else that was coming to your mind?
So you have to go from that old belief of that you need fame or big followers in order to be invited. And you have to take action, not just staying on that passive side where you're waiting for invitation, because, things are not just coming to anyone. You have to act. And in Hebrew, we say mazal. Mazal, it means luck, but it also an acronym of makom, a place, zman, a time, lif'ol, which is to act. So you have to be at the right place at the right time and to act. This what brings you luck. And
I love that so much. You have no idea. That like awakened something in my gut. I just went, ooh, yes. And it's not new, but the way you presented it was so rich. And I think that's important. The idea that people like to manifest things. I'm just going to put myself out there and they will come. That's not the way it works, friends. We need to actually put this thing into action. Create momentum around yourself. Reach out and say, hi, I'm here. Like, it has to happen.
And the things that you have to say, you have to have a certain clarity about what you deliver. What is your proof of value? Because a great speaker is the one who helps people, because podcasting is one-to-many form of art. So you have to do something in a certain way that will help people and all across society, not just me running marketing for startups. That is something that could be helpful for anyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone here hanging out with us who's been here for any length of time knows that I believe you're never not marketing. So no matter what you're doing, it bleeds into everything else. Life and business are intricately intertwined. We need to spread the word. We need to make sure that people understand their worth. And the only way to do that is to step into yours. This is so, so important. I love that so much. So we've got our positioning. We're really rebranding ourselves, putting ourselves out there. We're making sure that we're clear in how we're articulating the message that we have to say. We're taking action and actually putting ourselves in front of the right people. You mentioned a word that I thought was kind of funny in this space, and I want to kind of dive into it. And it was the productization. We want to productize ourselves. Let me hear a little bit more about that, because a lot of people want the ROI more than reach and impact and all that, which is probably more valuable. But practically, I understand we live in the real world. We want ROI. What does it mean to productize yourself then?
The thing is, the way I operate my business, and it is a certain way that I found out learning through books, researching on YouTube, watching all those startup ideas and founders videos and stuff like that. And I came across certain word that I didn't even know that was existing. It is productized service. It's a way to provide service that, well, it's a completely new Bible for me, but it is sort of a way that you can productize the services that you do. So, for example, me providing a product marketing managing services for startups, they have, for example, a Trello board, some sort of a CRM with me that they can get one request done at work at a time. So they have some certain queue that of certain backlog of requests that they want out of me. So for example, if you're a content creator, it could be write a blog post about this thing, write a newsletter about that thing. What you do is you ask your clients to pay a subscription fee. So the money comes in advance, and it's not like regular contract where you deliver 6 pieces of content each month, where when you start the month, you already have a debt of work because you have to deliver those certain things. So what you do is you provide them with a subscription to have one request at work at a time. And the whole setup is so scalable. I mean, I actually replicated it. I also helped like a few friends of mine to replicate the same systemized process of, it's just like one landing page. You don't have to go shenanigans with blog posts for SEO and stuff like that, because usually what you do, you just post on LinkedIn and that's the funnel. People get to you by word of mouth and stuff like that. But one landing page, one subscription could be from Stripe, really easy to set up, takes just 2 minutes, and you're good to go and you're scalable and you can get as many clients as you would want to. They have to apply for your services. And you have to show up. For example, there are certain rules. You have to show your pricing. So like your prices are the things that filter clients for you, because when they get to see it in advance, they know that they can not afford it sometimes, or maybe it's not a fit, and it just saves you time, because the whole thing when you go productized service is that your time is dedicated to your clients' requests. So, going back and forth with billing, no meetings and stuff like that. Usually I do like it's an asynchronous work. So I send them like a Loom video of what I did and ask them to leave comments if there are any requests to change something. So it is very productized, very systemized, and it's a way that I could operate over 7 clients.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. And I like that you're able to do that as a solopreneur without having to hire out a team, because it's one project at a time per client and it just turns over like that. I can see that.
The thing is,
in that case.
The thing is, when you hit a certain bottleneck and you have to hire a team, for example, you can just hire a freelance and pay them by request. And eventually you have a margin that you can play with, and you begin each month with money coming in and just requests coming in as well. But sometimes there are holidays, sometimes there are some events that happen. Maybe they would like to upgrade their subscription to 2 requests at a time. And
Right.
that is something that you can also take on. And once you have the money in your pocket, you're able to pay for suppliers. So it could be maybe a content creator, it could be whatever it is, but you already have it in your pocket.
Right. So would this then be, in your opinion, when it comes to podcasting, just one of the many differentiators that you can bring forth when you're showing up? You say, actually, I have this innovative way of doing work. It's a lot easier for my clients and for me to make sure that the turnaround and the delivery is clean.
The thing is, I just did it myself, and that's how I grew my product marketing agency. And eventually, while working with those founders that I've worked with and those marketing executives and managers, it led me to open up Podstar and go on with that adventure. But I actually documented everything, and I wrote down over 70 pages, no GPT at all, of how to do it. But nowadays, I only share it with some of my friends to help them to productize themselves. And it's been doing great. I mean, my friends are now working with the top tier companies, like providing services to Fiverr, Monday, like big companies. So it feels good to me that I have this tool that I can share with my friends. And I'm sure that sometime at a point I would do something with it. But for now, that's just how I operate.
And I mean, you're sharing it here, which I think is really important. This is a part of what you bring to a podcast, is getting people to think differently, the transformation that you can share with your stories. Now, you were talking about, because you just mentioned how this really innovative idea has allowed you to change the way you run your business. It's more aligned with how you want to live your life, and you've supported your friends with that. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that this is one of the many things that you've been able to shift in your life to make it the most optimal possible. And that can help, of course, with getting on podcasts, with making yourself be visible. We talked a little bit about how you could use your personal brand strategically. I want to expand that, make it a little bit bigger before we loop back again, because I do want to talk about specific specifically how to optimize your podcasts, but I want to look at this bigger and look at how we can use these cool ideas around visibility and around how we consider our personal branding and how we run our days in a way to improve our lives. Like, what are these little changes that we can make to make sure that actually appearing on a podcast, taking that leap for those who have been really hesitant, how do we make that easier? How do we make life feel like we're in flow and we can actually show up on a show and say, hey, I've got cool things to say. You should listen to me, because it stems from somewhere, right? And it doesn't go, oh, I can do it right now. There are little changes that have to be made. Let's dive into that, because I haven't struggled with that recently, but I remember the days when I have, and I have a lot of clients who come to me with these concerns, with my offer isn't profound, or my X isn't interesting, or my whatever, just something like that. Give me something I can use. I don't know.
So there's a great man named Naval Ravikant, and by his words, and I don't quote him like exactly the way he said it, but there are 3 things in life that you can change that will change the whole essence of your being. And it would be your location. So for example, with me, when actually the day that it came to my idea to productize myself and to do this systemized productized service, it was back in Friday. We hosted a barbecue, and we actually, a day before that, we heard Bruno Mars on a concert right from our balcony. We used to babysit a dog, and it was our place to do. And in Friday, it sank in because I was 6 months like trying to find a job. I applied to over 300 different places. I, worked on 8 different assignments to different startups to work with. And I came to the final level, just on a conversation with the direct boss 5 times, and I didn't find the right place to be. And out of this pain, there was something that I knew that I have to do something with it and to act on it. So I've decided to productize myself. And it was on Friday that the decision came in. But on Saturday, we woke up in 6:30 a.m. and we heard sirens and missiles coming in, and the war started. Both me and my wife, we work from our computers, so we knew that we probably should change our location. So we moved to Portugal, and in Portugal, I've spent over 4 months, perfecting my offer, coming up with a solution, how to monetize it, how to link it with Stripe, automations, and all of those kind of things. But it wouldn't even be possible to me to do it if I was in a war zone. And, that is actually a war zone. But sometimes in life, our environment, sometimes in life, our surroundings are not the right fit for us. Sometimes it could have some negative impacts to our lives. So I would say that your location is optimal. When you change it, you change your mind, you change your way of living, actually. So right. That is just one thing.
Right. And that makes sense. I mean, you actually mentioned 2 things, which is interesting. Not just your location, but your environment as well, because those 2 things really feed into one another. And I'm going to argue too, I mean, we're talking about an extreme situation where it's literally your location is of danger, a physical danger to you, but and you've moved location permanently, long term. So that can happen, sure. And it's pretty extreme. For everyday individuals, how we can break this down is to just understand that you don't have to literally move house or country. What I like to do is every quarter, I go away for a weekend, 2 days or 3 days, 2 nights, different city. And I just camp out in an Airbnb and I live there for a little while. I change not only my environment, but also my location. And it allows your brain to really expand in ways that you didn't think was possible. So that's, I would say, the minimal version of that. And everywhere in between that exists as well. So just understanding that if you really need to shake things up in your life, if you really need to get yourself to a place where you can be excited about appearing on podcasts, changing your location, changing your environment can actually change your mind about how you're going to approach the next step to your visibility. All right. So I'll get off of that soapbox because honestly, it's something that I think is pretty actionable. Like we can do that pretty quickly. Let's talk about using the specifics of using podcasts, guesting on podcasts as marketing fuel for growth for your business as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, micro business owner, that sort of idea. I'm going to let you lead the way. I have my opinions, but I would love to hear your opinion on this, Gal.
First of all, before we go on a show, we have to research is it the right fit for us? Because sometimes there are shows that obviously are not the right fit for us and our audience would not listen to. So it is sad to, spend so much time and effort, even preparing for this kind of show or even reaching out or doing this misalignment. So first of all, I would say that people should research a bit more on the show to find out if it's a good fit. And sometimes there are shows that are actually what I call pod scams, which, yeah, it is a sassy word, but there are things. Okay, so I had a DM from a show with a famous name on it. Okay, famous name, best-selling author, and he invited me to speak on his show. So it was a famous name show. That was the name of the podcast, and I went in. I researched just the minimal effort I gave it. I didn't even go on his socials and stuff, and just went on listennotes.com and checked it out. And it seems like this guy has been running the show over 2,000 episodes and so many astronauts, leaders, and stuff like that. That was what was he mentioned in the DM. And he said to me that, look, you can go on my show. I hosted these big name celebrities and you can speak. It's just 30 minutes and you have to pay just $200. And look, he's been running the show and it is a podcast. But when I deeply researched it, only after I actually paid, I found out that his YouTube channel has 0 views. There is 0 engagement on the social platforms with his brand. And I just felt like there is a fraud going on and there is something to be aware of.
Yeah.
So before we go on a show, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said at the beginning, it's not about having a bajillion followers as a guest or as a host. It's more about just being authentic and transparent in what you have to offer. Because if you're saying, "Oh, I've hosted this, that, and the other," and then you don't actually have any sort of anything to offer, visibility doesn't pay the bills, friends. And if visibility is in front of an empty room, come on, that's bad. So do the research, is what you're saying. First and foremost.
First and foremost, do the research. It is obligated, absolutely. And you can search and check the social network and like social channels and stuff like that and check for engagement. That's for sure. That's the first thing. And only after that, you can reach. And by reach, I mean reaching out and, doing it the right way. So reach is also served as a framework. Reach as a framework is the R stands for research the show. So R is research the show. E is extract a personal win from a recent episode. That is something to also include in your note when you outreach to that podcast. A tends to align your topic with their audience. So obviously, the podcaster has some sort of an offer and they are obligated to, deliver it. Every show has their own frameworks. It has their own guarantee to it. If you listen to me, you will know how to do marketing better, for example. That could be one offer. So you have to align your topics with their audience and their value proposition. And C stands for connect with warmth and email. And H stands for handle follow-ups.
Right. Stay on top of it. It makes a difference. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it actually forms that rapport. And that, I love that. I absolutely love that. And moving beyond the podcast, once you've appeared, now you've got to look at things like, how am I repurposing this? How am I promoting this? How am I actually connecting with the host or any other past guests? This is something that people often forget. You can reach out to a past guest and say, hey, we were both on this show. Isn't that cool? Use what you've got. Now, I feel like that conversation could actually turn into an entire lecture. And you as a lecturer know that. So instead of diving into that, I'm going to let everyone ask questions in the comments, reach out to both Gal and I, because we have a few ideas on how you can absolutely optimize whatever way you show up on the podcast. Even if you're like, man, I bombed that, we'll figure it out for you. Don't worry about it. But you won't bomb it anyways because you're awesome. Okay, Gal, listen, I need to ask you a question. It's a hard one. Can you please think for a moment about something that you can offer to our audience, to the people who've joined us for this conversation today, a piece of wisdom from your experience that they can hold with them, take action on today, the rest of the week, maybe multiple times in their future, that's really going to positively impact the way they're showing up in their life, in their business, and on podcasts. I'm going to give you a moment to think about that because that's a big ask. And in the time while you're thinking, I'm going to remind everybody here that these conversations happen every week. And you can join in. You're a part of this conversation. Remember to ding the bell, subscribe so you get notified when the next one comes up. Leave a comment, ask a question, share with a friend. We want you to be a part of this. This is a community action here. You rise by lifting others, and so do we. So let's work together. With that, I'll get off my soapbox, and Gal, please tell the people what they need to hear.
So 83% of all executives are now listening to podcasts around 5 hours a week. I know for a fact that I listen to podcasts and it actually shapes my buying decision. My wife just ordered a book just because of a podcast she heard. And I would say that the same act of just listening and developing this trust with a brand is happening naturally every day. So I would encourage people to listen to more podcasts and start speaking on podcasts. And the way I would do it is I can do it really for free with a community that supports you, with podcasters that are looking for guests. And it can all be done right here under this QR. So you can just scan it and join the school community and introduce yourself and let us know what you want to speak about and what is your topic, what is the shift that you're trying to make in this world. And we will help you achieve it and become the voice your industry will always listen to, because you're always one podcast away from your next big opportunity. So, yeah.
I love that so much. Yes, thank you so much, Gal. That is beautiful. And yes, this QR code will lead you straight to the Podstar community, but you'll also find a link in the show notes. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there, because I actually clicked on this link a little while before we started recording to make sure that I could scope it out for you all. And you definitely want to take this leap. Having a community of people who can not only support you as you emerge into the podcasting space and or support you as you continue to elevate yourself in the podcasting space is invaluable. You can get introductions. You can get new opportunities that you never knew you could have. If somebody appeared on a really cool show that you never thought you'd have a chance of, an introduction could give you that foot in the door. So join the community and really dive in with your whole self, because that's what it takes to really make an impact in this world. Now, with that, I want to thank you all for being here, for joining us in this conversation. I want to thank Gal for giving us so much amazing, rich fuel to show up in a more meaningful way, using podcasting as a lever, as a launching point to our own personal success. With that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.